What if everything falling apart was actually the universe answering the prayer you forgot you made? There are seasons when life pauses you, and you find yourself suspended between the person you used to be and the self you haven't yet met. It feels like nothing is moving, but beneath that stillness, everything trembles in ways you can't yet name. You reach out, desperate to hold on, but reality keeps sliding through your fingers like water. Plans unravel, people drift. Doors you once walked through without thinking now stay tightly shut. And a quiet question rises. Why now? Why this? But what if nothing is breaking? What if it's falling precisely into place? What if the chaos isn't punishment, but passage? There is a deeper current beneath all this noise, one that doesn't follow logic and doesn't care about your comfort. It cares about one thing, your transformation. Because sometimes the only way to awaken you is to dismantle everything you've quietly outgrown. You can already feel it, can't you? The old version of you dissolving. The patterns, the attachments, the identities that no longer fit your skin. This isn't an ending. It's a threshold. You're not being abandoned. You're being summoned. Summoned to release, summoned to expand, summoned to step into a life that can finally hold who you are becoming. The confusion feels sharp, but what feels like disorientation is often divine design. This strange season isn't a mistake. It's a construction zone. The universe is rebuilding you from the inside out, and the process is rarely tidy. You've stepped out of the old, but the new hasn't yet taken form. That's not a void to fear, it's a womb. You're not lost. You're becoming, and every disruption you're facing is part of a greater symmetry you can't yet see. Life will never stay in the shape you once knew. It wasn't meant to. The soul is too vast, too luminous to stay trapped in yesterday's framework. So when something collapses without warning, it isn't always because something went wrong. Sometimes, it's because something deeper is going beautifully right. A new season is calling. The universe is rearranging everything that no longer matches the frequency of where you're headed. What once worked begins to glitch. What once felt safe becomes unbearably heavy. This isn't failure. This is alignment. You asked for peace, but kept clutching chaos. And the universe, it listened, it answered, and now it's clearing the path for the life you asked for. Even if it means dismantling the one you've outgrown. You asked for clarity, but resisted the cleansing. You asked for a higher path, and now the universe is sweeping away everything heavy enough to block it. You were never being ignored. You were being heard so profoundly that the surface of your life couldn't stay untouched. Like a potter breaking the clay only to shape it into something more exquisite. The life you've known must first soften, stir, and shift. Not from cruelty, but from breathtaking care. There is an unseen intelligence at work, a hidden rhythm in the pauses, the pullbacks, the sudden endings. When something exits abruptly, it isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's prevention. When the door slams shut, it may not be rejection, but redirection. The universe knows when something has served its purpose. And rather than letting you stay in a place where your spirit can't stretch, it shakes the ground beneath you to carry you forward. It doesn't wait for your comfort. It waits for your readiness. That's why the rearrangement feels so raw, because it doesn't just skim the surface. It digs into the roots. It doesn't settle for shallow change. It dismantles what you built your identity on, so that something truer, stronger can rise beneath it. And that's why you're here, why you're watching this, why you feel the tremor in your soul. You are not being abandoned in the confusion. You are being refined by it. This isn't destruction. This is precision. The universe is not taking things away to punish you. It's repositioning you for the very thing you whispered for in your quietest prayers. And every shard that feels like it's breaking, it's not breaking, it's falling into place. When the universe begins to rearrange your life, its first request is simple: let go. Not because what you hold is bad, but because it no longer sings in harmony with who you are becoming. This shift isn't only about changing what surrounds you, it's about dissolving the attachments within you. You can't step into a new reality while dragging the weight of yesterday. Detachment is not loss. it's a sacred untying. A deliberate holy release of what once served but now quietly holds you back. So much of the pain isn't from the rearrangement itself, but from the resistance to it. We stitch meaning into people, roles, and plans, believing they define who we are. So when they shift or vanish, it feels as if a piece of us is being erased too. But what if it isn't you that's disappearing? What if it's only the layer you no longer need? The universe rearranges, not to strip you, but to reveal you. Detachment is how it clears the space. Space for alignment, for expansion, for the next chapter of your soul's unfolding. Picture this. You're trying to climb higher, but you refuse to release the ledge below. That grip, that fear of letting go, becomes the very thing that stops you from rising. The universe knows when something has become too small for you, and in its quiet wisdom, it begins to shake loose the walls you mistook for safety. This is where the rearrangement can feel like chaos. Things fall away faster than your mind can explain. But the truth is, you're not being emptied to suffer, you're being emptied to receive. Letting go is not weakness, it's the doorway to transformation. Detachment is not about becoming cold or empty or numb. It's about trust. Trusting that what is truly meant for you cannot be lost. Trusting that the space left behind by what departs isn't a wound, but an invitation. The universe isn't asking you to detach as punishment. It's aligning you to your truth, to your future, to the version of you waiting quietly on the other side of surrender. Because when you stop gripping what's already leaving, you finally open your hands to what's arriving. And that is the secret. That's why this rearrangement is sacred. The moment life stops making sense is often the moment you are closest to alignment. The rearrangement rarely announces itself with clarity. It slips in quietly, shaking the ground beneath your plans, nudging your steps into unfamiliar directions. And yet, beneath the mystery, there's order. The universe doesn't need you to see the entire map. It only asks you to keep walking. You're not lost. You are being guided by coordinates you can't yet read with your eyes, but you can feel in your spirit. When the path turns foggy, the mind panics. It wants proof. It demands guarantees. But the soul speaks another language, a language of trust, a language of presence. The universe rarely hands you a blueprint. Instead, it gives you signs, synchronicities, a subtle inner pull that whispers, believe before you see. Rearrangement requires this kind of faith. Not blind optimism, but a quiet recognition that something wiser than logic is weaving your life together. Your life is not a random scattering of moments. It is an unfolding, guided by an intelligence far greater than your own. Just as the stars hide in daylight, some of the clearest guidance only shows itself in the darkness. And this is where many give up, mistaking the silence for absence, mistaking the waiting for abandonment. But the stillness is not empty. It is sacred preparation. The universe isn't ignoring you. It is aligning the pieces, calibrating the timing, strengthening your spirit, so that when the opening comes, you will be ready to step through it. The pause you feel isn't punishment, it's precision. You were never meant to see every turn ahead. That kind of control would only shrink you. If every answer arrived too soon, there would be no space left for wonder, no room for trust. The universe rearranges your life not to confuse you, but to invite you into a deeper intimacy with its flow. When you stop demanding guarantees and start tuning into energy, into the patterns, into the way your heart tightens or softens, you begin to navigate by something truer, inner wisdom. That is the unseen map, not made of lines and labels, but of resonance and faith. So if you feel disoriented right now, if the old roads have crumbled and no clear path has appeared, don't rush to rebuild what's familiar. Sit in the unknown. Listen deeply. The rearrangement is not finished yet, and clarity will come. Not all at once, but exactly when you need it. Trust that you are not walking alone. Every step, even the uncertain ones, is moving you closer to the life you were always meant to hold. When the universe begins to rearrange your life, it isn't just shifting your circumstances, it's rewriting you. It's reshaping you. Not the version you performed for the world, but the version you were always meant to live from. This rearrangement tugs at every thread that no longer matches your truest self. Habits unravel, relationships loosen. Even the thoughts that once defined you begin to dissolve. And though it feels like things are being stripped away, what's really happening is refinement. The universe isn't destroying your life, it's aligning it. Alignment isn't about flawless perfection, it's about raw honesty. And honesty asks for courage. The courage to release the stories you've outgrown, the roles you played just to survive, the dreams you inherited but never truly wanted, the masks you wore to belong. As the rearrangement deepens, these pieces fall away. Not to hurt you, but to uncover what was always real beneath them. The moment you stop forcing what's already fading and start letting the new emerge, you step into alignment. And alignment doesn't push, it flows. You begin to notice a quiet shift. The triggers that once drowned you lose their pull. The fears that used to rule your choices fall silent. Why? Because the self you're becoming no longer speaks the language of lack. It doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't beg, it believes. This version of you, this aligned, unshaken, luminous self, is who the rearrangement has been guiding you toward all along. The shedding was never punishment. It was sacred preparation. In this space, you don't need to force open doors. You become the energy that draws the right ones toward you. The more you live from this truth, the more your life begins to mirror it. The chaos softens. Not because the world changed overnight, but because you did. And that is the deepest reason the universe is rearranging your life. Not so you can simply have more, but so you can be more. More present, more real, more whole. Aligned not only with your path, but with the quiet power that walks it beside you. There comes a moment in every rearrangement when resistance becomes too heavy to carry. You've asked for clarity, for healing, for expansion. And now the universe is delivering, just not in the way your mind imagined. It doesn't always arrive wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it comes as endings, as silence, as unfamiliar roads. But hidden in all of it is an invitation, a quiet, undeniable call to say yes. Not a half-hearted yes, a sacred yes. The kind of yes that lives in your bones, the kind of yes that whispers surrender without fanfare. It doesn't shout, it doesn't need to. It happens in the stillness, in the moment you stop running from the unknown and start trusting the pull that's been leading you all along. You don't need every answer. You only need the courage to respond, because when your yes aligns with the rhythm of the universe, you step out of confusion and into co-creation. You're no longer being dragged. You're dancing with the rhythm of your own becoming. This is the turning point. The instant you stop fearing what's being taken and start recognizing what's being offered, you begin to see that every closed door protected you, every delay prepared you, every detour was carrying you towards something more aligned. But none of that clarity can bloom until you choose to participate, until your yes becomes louder than your fear. That's when the energy moves differently. That's when the path begins to appear beneath your feet. And saying yes doesn't mean you won't still feel the stretch. It simply means you're finally ready to grow. Growth will always ask something of you, but the sacred yes, the quiet, bone-deep surrender, gives that growth permission. It tells the universe, I trust you. I trust that this rearrangement isn't here to break me, but to build something within me that could not exist any other way. And that trust, it opens a hidden doorway, a doorway where new beginnings slip in, where peace softly returns, where guidance becomes impossible to ignore. Not because the outside world has transformed overnight, but because you have met the change with readiness. So if you feel the pressure tightening, the walls inching closer, the pieces of your life shifting in ways you can't control, pause, breathe, listen. You're being asked to say yes to a life you haven't lived yet, to a version of yourself you've only barely met. The rearrangement isn't happening to pull you under, it's happening to pull you through. And on the other side of your sacred yes is everything you've quietly been preparing for, even if you didn't realize it. This is why the universe is rearranging your life right now, not to harm you, but to reveal you, to lead you back to the truth you buried under expectations, under fear, under the weight of routine. It is answering your prayers in a language the soul understands, through release, through redirection, through resurrection. The discomfort you feel is not a sign to quit. It's the invitation to rise. Now, let go. Trust deeper. Step forward. Not because you see every turn ahead, but because you finally remember who you are. You were never meant to remain unchanged. And now the rearrangement begins. So if these words found you, it's not by accident. You were meant to hear this, to be reminded that the shifting, the letting go, the becoming, it's all part of something sacred. The universe is not just rearranging your life, it's awakening you. Take a breath. Place your hand over your heart. And if you feel ready, whisper it to yourself or write it below for the world to see. I say yes, not just to change, but to alignment. Not just to what's leaving, but to what's arriving. Subscribe, not just for more words, but for a space where you can return again and again to remember what your soul already knows. Because this is only the beginning.